Hi, and welcome to this video production news update. So, some of Andrew Tate's victims in the UK are now taking him to civil court over the historic abuse they allegedly suffered at his hands. To date, we haven't reported on this, and for that, of course, we apologise. However, due to the sensitivity of this matter, and from a professional standpoint, we felt it only correct that we complete all due diligence and research into it before actually bringing it to you. As we now hope that this report will stand as the definitive outline of the actual facts surrounding this case. But please be advised, it does contain references to rape and sexual violence that some of our viewers may find distressing. With that said, let's get into it then. Andrew Tate's legal troubles in Romania have widely been reported on, including on this channel, and you can refer to our page or subscribe for the full catalogue of videos that we have produced to date on that case. However, as a quick recap, in April 2022, Andrew and Tristan Tate's home in Romania was raided after it was alleged that the brothers were holding two women captive at the property. And then, in December 2022, the Tate brothers were arrested on human trafficking charges, and that investigation is still ongoing. More recently, it has come to light that a number of women in the United Kingdom have come forward to allege that they were physically and sexually assaulted, including raped, by Andrew Tate in the 2010s. When Tate still lived here in the United Kingdom and before he relocated to Romania, allegedly due to the fact that he felt that the corruption in Romania was more widespread than here in the UK. It is worth noting that these accusations have been made against Andrew Tate alone and not his brother Tristan. The UK survivors, who have launched a crowdfunding campaign to raise funds for their case and have instructed renowned human rights firm McHugh Jury and Partners to act for them, have stated that they have the twin aims of reopening the criminal investigation into Tate while considering whether a civil claim for damages can be pursued. Sexual abuse is defined as any sexual act which a person is forced to perform without their consent. Broadly speaking, a civil claim for compensation in relation to assault seeks to compensate the survivor of the abuse for the harm they suffered as a result. This stands in contrast to the criminal justice system, which focuses on punishing the perpetrator of the crime. Tate was the subject of an investigation by the authorities in the UK. However, the investigation was ultimately dropped after the Crown Prosecution Service decided not to take the prosecution forward. It is worth noting here that very few criminal cases for rape and sexual assault result in a charge or a conviction. The reason for this is primarily due to the difficulty of prosecuting such cases from an evidential point of view and the lack of resources available to the police and the Crown Prosecution Service. The first step in circumstances where such a crime has been committed is to inform the police, regardless of when the alleged crime took place. However, a civil claim for financial compensation can be complementary to criminal proceedings, and it is possible to bring a civil claim even if the defendant has never been convicted of the crime. A successful civil claim, therefore, can prompt a criminal investigation, going a long way evidentially to proving that the criminal offence took place, or can follow a criminal case. The burden of proof in criminal law, as you might have heard mentioned on TV, is beyond reasonable doubt. This contrasts with civil proceedings where the burden of proof is on the balance of probabilities. In the UK, criminal convictions for rape are unfortunately at an all-time low. This fact is borne out by some statistics which are provided by charity Rape Crisis England and Wales, which shows that only 1 in 100 rapes recorded by police in 2021 resulted in a charge that same year, let alone a conviction. Survivors also, through no fault of their own, face unprecedented delays in their case reaching a criminal trial, and the overwhelming majority of survivors of rape do not report it to the police, often because the ordeal of reporting the crime is unbearable, or because they knew their abuser intimately and feel afraid of coming forward. Now, it's worth stating for the record that we're not simply talking about women, as 1 in 18 adult men in the UK have also been the victim of a sexual assault. So given those numbers, it's perhaps no surprise that civil proceedings might now seem like a preferable option to the criminal justice system for these survivors. However, as we've already come to expect as regards anything concerning Mr. Tate, it didn't take long for the smears and disinformation to be spread about this case by his loyal followers shortly after the victim's crowdfunding page went live. Let's take one such example from Tate super fanboy Suleiman Ahmed, who stated on Twitter on the 13th of April 2023 that the case was merely a coordinated attack against Tate, using allegations which have already been dismissed by the UK legal system due to lack of evidence and collusion. He then went on to further falsely suggest that the claim was a tool to simply silence and censor Tate and exploit Tate's position purely for financial gain. So, let's now take a look at these two allegations in closer detail. The first point to consider here is the criminal prosecution against Tate was never dismissed by the legal system in the UK. In fact, the Crown Prosecution Service simply decided not to prosecute the claim. So, whether or not they decide to reconsider their decision remains to be seen, but at no point was Tate actually ever cleared of the crime, and the suggestion of collusion between the claimants is equally as fantastical. In addition to this, the second point to consider here is that one allegation that victims of sexual violence always face when they come forward to seek compensation through the civil courts is that they are simply doing it for a payday. This attitude is horribly outdated and totally rooted in misogyny. So ask yourself this: do we level the same accusation at people who are in road traffic accidents that aren't their fault, or people who suffer a loss as a result of a breach of contract? But of course we don't. But in sexual violence cases, the nagging assumption is always that the victims were responsible for what happened to them in some way. And that attitude is totally outdated, dangerous, and wrong. It is a fact that victims of sexual violence often face long-standing effects from their experiences, including in the most serious cases, problems with symptoms of suicidal impulses, PTSD, difficulties in establishing and maintaining intimate relationships, self-harm, substance abuse, and general overall depression and anxiety. So, to simply dismiss victims who actually suffer these effects as being money hungry is just inhumane. So, to quickly bring you up to speed as to where we are currently on the case, the accusations of the UK victims have already arrived at Andrew Tate's door. Their British lawyer, Matthew Jury, has recently delivered their civil claims of rape, serious assault and coercive behaviour directly in person to his home in Bucharest. But as we would have expected, the doors to his compound remained firmly closed.
So probably what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop these through the grill here. We'll consider them delivered.
It is also worth noting at this point that the letters included not only the complaints from the 3 existing victims, but also now a 4th woman who came forward more recently. In a statement responding to this, Andrew Tate's press manager said that he categorically denied the accusations, describing them as acts of intimidation. Matthew was asked if it was just the 4 women he was representing, or if he had any indications that there were others.
Yes, I mean I've had conversations with others who have claimed to have been a victim of abuse by Tate also.
How many?
Maybe half a dozen.
So, to sum up, hopefully now this case and the publicity it attracts will cause a re-evaluation of the public's view of survivors who now seek to enforce their rights in the civil courts, and also to shift the dial in relation to our view of victims of sexual violence generally. Let us also not forget here, Andrew Tate does not exist in a vacuum. He is a mere creation of the modern world and of social media. The very reason for his popularity is his populism. He speaks to some of the worst impulses in some of us and exploits those impulses for personal gain. And in bringing their claim, these brave women have decided to take a stand and wrestle the narrative back from Tate himself, his associates and his army of minions. So here's hoping that they will give other survivors of sexual abuse the courage to come forward and tell their stories now, and in so doing, hold their abusers to account as well. And so to finalise, we would like to state for the record that Video Production News, after thoroughly researching the evidence, merits and overall social importance of this case, and especially given the sheer volume of legal inaccuracies we've discovered being spread all over social media as outright negative propaganda against these victims, going forward we'll be fully supporting their crowdfunding campaign to raise enough money to actually take this case forward. And we encourage you, all of our loyal viewers, to try and make an effort to also support their campaign if you are able to. You can find a link to their crowdfunding page above, but we'll also be putting this in the description and comments on this video. Well, that's nearly all we have time for today, but as usual, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this matter in the comments section. But please don't forget to like and subscribe with the notification bell for further updates. And as always, many thanks for watching along with us, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye!